Thank you. So this Fireside session today we have is to discuss little about the cloud interoperability standards. I have a colleague of mine, Dr. Sitaram, with me. Let me briefly introduce him. So Dr. Sitaram is a graduate from IIT Kharagpur, and he received his PhD from University of Wisconsin Madison. After his PhD, he joined as a research staff at Watson Research, IBM TJ Watson Research in the Newark area, and he worked there for a while. And he has during his tenure there, he received the IBM Corporate Award for invention, and also he has received the Outstanding Paper Award for at the ACM Multimedia for his work. And after the tenure at IBM, he joined Novell Corporation, and then followed that he was a chief CTO at Andimo Systems in India. And after that, he joined the HP India as a CTO, and followed that he has left HP and joined PS University, and he was heading the Center for Cloud Computing and Big Data at PES University, and he has recently retired, and now currently he's the chair of Cloud Computing Innovation Council, particularly on the interoperability standards, and working with the Department of Telecommunication and TSTSI. Let me welcome Dr. Dinkar. Let's get into the chat.
Thanks very much, Thambyra. Thanks to the organizers for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you. So let me jump into the question right away, Dinkar. So we have a limited time. We're going to talk about the interoperability standard. So can you give a brief about what is interoperability and why do we need standards? What is the importance of the standards?
Sure. I have my screen. I'm going to share my screen over here. I hope this is visible.
Yeah.
So I think there are two major reasons why you need interoperability. And one of them is to avoid vendor lock-in. Because right now the clouds are proprietary with no standards. So once you start with one cloud, you pretty much have to work with that cloud vendor. And so that could result in rising costs and some sort of loss of control because of the vendor lock-in. And our surveys like the cloud study and so on, they have shown that when vendor lock-in is definitely one of the major concerns for people. So that is one thing. But the second and maybe even the more important reason is that interoperability and standardization will have a huge impact on cloud computing. To understand that, let's take a look at the internet. Before the internet protocols like TCP, ICP, and so on, there were a lot of proprietary networks, and you had all sorts of proprietary email clients, and people were sort of locked into that. But once you had all these protocols, standard protocols like TCP, IP, DNS, MIME, and so on and so forth, then you had the internet, and now everything became kind of interoperable. And people were able to exchange emails with each other no matter which network they were in. And not only that, it also created the internet as we know it. I mean, all of the things that we see today, social networking, websites, Facebook, Google, none of those things would have been possible without all these standardization protocols. So these standardization protocols, so initially we started a proprietary service, but once you had all these standard protocols, there was rapid and open innovation, and that led to the internet as we know it today. So the same thing is true of clouds. Today we have clouds which are islands, and there is no federation or interworking that goes along with these clouds. So, essentially people are living with whatever facilities are there in the cloud, and cross-cloud computing is very, very difficult. And once we have sort of standardization of protocols, we will find similarly cross-cloud applications and so on coming along, and the dynamics will change. So as an example, we'll take a look at, say, something like Digital India. As we know, the government is making a huge push towards digitizing e-governance and so on and so forth. And they have empaneled a number of different cloud service providers. Uh, Obviously, since they cannot have a monopoly, I mean, they cannot empanel only one cloud service provider who will be a monopoly supplied to the government. And so, what is likely to happen is that different government departments may have different cloud service providers, and then it will be difficult to build a single Windows service because, in order to integrate all the things from different departments, the applications will have to interoperate across multiple CSPs. So this is the situation, and a simple example of that would be a smart city service. For example, suppose you have a smart city service which wants to integrate, say, disease data, pollution data, and garbage data, and which wants to integrate all of this to make recommendations. Or say in terms of COVID, it wants to integrate population density and various other factors. So then these are likely to spread across multiple clouds, and it's going to be very hard to make these inter-cloud applications, particularly when you consider things like security and privacy and so on, and handling of data. Transferring data from one cloud to another will be difficult and so on. So that is why interoperability is very crucial to cloud computing. And just like the networking protocols led to the internet as we know it, we hope that with interoperability there will be an intercloud.
So don't we have the international standards body already working on this, or don't they have something already published or so? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, so there are a large number of international standards body which are trying to take a look at it. The problem is that due to legacy and many other reasons, they have not made complete progress. So I'll give a brief survey of three standards they kind of looked at. These are three very important standards, and by very well-known standard bodies, which are likely to be the ones driving cloud computing standards. So first of all, we have ISO, which has a series of standards called IEC 19941. So that is not really a standard in the sense of what we call, say, TCP/IP is a standard. So this is more a document which talks about which tries to establish a common vocabulary for talking about cloud interoperability. For example, in this document, if you want to talk about, say, data portability, then it talks about what do we mean by data portability. So there, it could mean that there's common syntax. It could mean that there's common semantics. So it goes into details such as that, and it gives examples of standards that can be used to achieve it. So it's not a standard in the sense of TCP/IP, which it gives, say, the packet format, and it's not something that's implementable. So another very important standard effort is the IEEE NIST. The NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology of the US. Their P2302 effort. So this is the architecture stage. They're defining various cloud architectures which they want to support. And this is work in progress. They have not yet gotten to the point of specifying, say, common APIs or common packet message formats, which is what is needed if you want to get to a truly interoperable standard such as TCP/IP. Then there's the International Telecommunications Union. This is ITU, and of course that is a very important body as well. And they've also taken up this question, and they've issued a series of standards starting with Y.350. And these are actually requirements for test cases. So when I say requirements for test cases, these are English descriptions of what the test cases need to be there for formulating a standard. So this is an interesting effort, but again, this is not exactly a standard in the sense, in the IETF sense of standard, which is where you define the standard APIs and the standard message formats. So currently, while there are a number of standard definitions underway. No interoperability standard currently fits the need. But of course, we plan to work with them to get our standards accepted internationally. This is a good area for India to kind of leapfrog in technology and be a leader in the technology rather than having to adopt technology defined by others. So, in that sense, also, this is a very interesting area to work in.
Okay, now given these situations, and you also says your bullet point says no interoperability standard currently fits the need. So what are you doing in CCICI towards the interoperability standards?
Great. So the short answer to that is that we are trying to fill the gap. Long answer, so let me talk about it. I'll first give some background. So DOT had, the Department of Telecommunications in India had realized that this is a very important area. And so they had asked TSDSI to formulate cloud standards. TSDSI stands for Telecommunication Standards Definition Society of India. This is a PPP organization under DOT which develops standards for various technologies. So the Cloud Computing Innovation Council of India, as has been mentioned, is a sort of organization consisting of academics, industry, government, and so on, academia as well, and which are working on cloud computing strategies for India. Some of the things we've done, the interoperability effort, of course, one of those. But there's also been a very interesting cloud study which talks about the way clouds are being used in India and what is the inhibitors to cloud adoption and what are customers in India looking for when it comes to cloud computing. So because CCICI had a lot of expertise, we were invited by TSDSI to work together with them. And there has been a report which has been generated. This report basically talks about what are the standards that are necessary for what standards do we need in India to enhance the cloud computing. So what we've essentially done is we've taken a look at various use cases such as what are the requirements of the telecom industry in terms of cloud computing, smart cities, enterprises, and said that, okay, suppose all of these things have to network, interoperate together, then what are the standards we need? So that standards report has been submitted to DOT, MAITI, and also TEC, which is the testing arm. And they've given some comments, and we have incorporated that. But we don't want it to be at the stage of a report. So we formed the Antarmega project with 4 founding members: CCICI, TSDSI, ISC, and CDAC. So essentially, CCICI will be coordinating the project and be also responsible for enhancing its success and so on. TSDSI is a standards development body, so standards we develop will go to TSDSI, and they would also have some responsibility for propagating the project. Cloud computing is not a static field, so there will be new technologies that come in and new technologies that have to be incorporated. So ISC would kind of be responsible for that. And finally, we don't want to just specify standards. They should not be a paper standard. Just as in the case of IETF, there should be a standard implementations. And so CDAC would be tasked with that role and with maintaining that. So this is called the Antarmega project. I'm giving over here a brief overview of Antarmega Phase 1. So this will be an intercloud open source platform. This will be an intercloud platform which will be open source under the Apache 2 license. So anyone can use that. So we'll be releasing the platform together with a proof of concept to demonstrate that our interoperability standards enable interoperability. So to demonstrate that, we have picked up MeFOS. MeFOS is an open source core banking solution. So we will do a demo where the test suite will start MeFOS running on one of both clouds, and we'll perform cross-cloud operations such as migrating VMs from one cloud to another, snapshot VMs from one cloud to another, and so on and so forth. So this is sort of a release of our platform together with the POC to demonstrate how the platform works and that it works with good efficiency. And of course, we will also be doing various other activities such as plug fest, workshops, and so on and so forth to talk about our standards.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dinkar. So this is a great initiative. Thanks for bringing it up and presenting it in this forum.